faculty members from KCAI from the Creative Writing Department. They're going to come and do a reading for us. I want to introduce to you Jordan Stuckelman, who is also a part of the show as an artist contributing to this piece, actually. But anyway, I would like to thank him for pulling this together, this actual reading. So Jordan, if you want to come up, and he will tell you more about what they're going to do.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming, and thanks for having us here. Thank you. So tonight, myself, Cyrus Consul, and Rob Bauman are going to read some poems. We're going to have a good friend of mine. Can everyone hear me? Okay. A good friend of mine and poet, Dean Young. I don't know if anyone's familiar with his work. He's in need of a heart transplant. He's one of the most important poets we have in America today. He's also just a wonderful guy, and his heart's gone rapidly down the hill where it's only at 8% capacity. But anyway, if you guys could, he's taking donations for his medical bills and all that at www.transplants.org. /donate /Dean Young, and I can read that off my hand to you later. But anything you can get would be helpful for skills. So we're just going to go in alphabetical order tonight. So first we'll begin with Rob Bauman, and then Cyrus Consul, and then myself. So Rob, you want to?
Anybody want to go? I'm going to read this poem. I was just telling Cyrus about it, like how sort of embarrassed I am, and maybe how saccharine it is or something like that. But I guess just to say a couple of words, people about things that you might not know, or maybe you might know far more about it than I do. But it started off with this conversation I was having with Chloe Cooper Jones, who couldn't be here tonight, about whether or not ability or talent in the arts creates an obligation or an imperative, I guess, to cultivate that and then produce something that can be consumed or inspire other people. And then so it made me think of Gee's Bend, which is this little community in Alabama that's surrounded on three sides of it by a river. And it's a pretty poor community, and it's pretty maybe culturally isolated. And so but all the women there, it's just a tradition that they quilt, and they'll quilt annual thing, so to speak, and they make these really beautiful quilts, and then it became pretty popular. It toured different art museums and things like that, and that's kind of how I found out about it. And so that's sort of where the poem starts. And then there's also a point in here that's sort of in contrast to that, a term that you might know. It's FIP, capital letters FIP, and it's a baseball term. And it's just basically all FIP is a way of measuring a pitcher's worth, while not considering things that he can't control, like defense or heart or something like that. Nobody gives a shit about that, so I just didn't want anybody to be really confused if they got to that point. So this poem is just called A Buzz in Our Ears We Quilt Endlessly, which is a really stupid title. If anybody knows what it's alluding to, please don't tell anybody else. In Gee's Bend, they put the time in, but what they make, are they obligated to make? When it don't make them the money, I don't know. You can't make it. What they make, I can't either. And the world feels them. All the different countries feel the tops. They're not supposed to unless They're buying, they're not dirty, 3 quilts Loretta fashion in the same batch of men's clothing, says the curator. It started in the 60s, and without the women, there's no quilts to cover the batting to match the backs to. Do they even need quilts in Alabama? Would you feel cheated should the women farm instead? The women consider the process of piecing the quilt top highly personal. In Gee's Bend, the top side faces up on the bed. It's always pieced by a quilter working alone and reflects a singular artistic vision. Quilting the quilt together, the completed top, the batting, the back, is performed communally among small women. The Gee's Bend quilters collect themselves.
I'll read a little bit from my second book that's coming out this fall from a press called
From within me, a cheer in Ranker, California. Not understood. Something wild and by the sight
a long
unconscious.
sequence of short poems, and it deals with a central character named Tony, whose identity never really becomes clear. So you might hear a lot of Tony in this poem. It really just functions as a name in the poems. So I'll read from the section called Theoctony, I think this section is called, and it starts with an epigraph by E.T. Jain. This universal stable type of noise was called grass, because that is what it looks like on an oscilloscope. To the ear, it sounds like a smooth hissing without any discernible pitch. Today, this is familiar to everyone because it is what we hear when a television receiver is tuned to an unused channel. Downrange, while I was smoothing out my pistol, rustling, I heard some animal, massive, cloaked about in tawny fell, struggle, ridged horns coiled close against his skull, nodded, there in the white honeysuckle, grown unutterably beautiful, downrange. Tony's cover garment glowed in the sun, but he was messing with it like a guilty thing, and had been made badly, twice, on the way to town. Now one heard no traffic save the water passing consistently among the rushes downrange. Where this undermined the bank, there was the occasional plashing. Tony said, "I don't know why we had come," he said. I said I didn't know for sure either. Then I saw that he was hurt. We both cried and then I felt better. Anthony and I had quarreled, but I had not gone home. The goddamn moon settled her voluminous down mantle down by where we were brought up to take no pay for doing, but as we were raised, Tony said tonight I'd sleep with him in Providence. Some strain in the position of my limbs abating, then I woke the terminal that I might find a match, rousing it anew so I could see my lung print in the smoke, or frame my lips to blow kisses through the ragged keyholes in my hands. I sighed just watching Tony clasp the rough-hewn cedar headboard still. Lightly, again, I touched the terminal with my free hand to watch his gradients disperse. From the 6th unto the 9th hour, blue light bled out over the land. I should say that these poems talk a lot about Providence and the western side of Providence, which is called Olneyville, which is where I was living when I first started to take the notes that developed into the poems. So these numbers are for my man Anthony, whose call sign was the Tramp of Olneyville, capital of the imagination, Tony's medium, and my belonging. His partner's call sign was, I want to say, 0. Tony, do you know how sorry I was to hear a 0? How along the scripted wall of Providence I can almost still see evidence of her progress there. Often I had this feeling we were both involved with 0, though perhaps at separate times. It's as I said, a feeling. I won't be the one recounting fixedly his 19th year or listing like a broken record all the people doing fine despite their being dead to him by signs giving immutable autistic power of signification. While the singing of this early work song was to him, Anthony, more than the others, envied that protagonist whose trade rather was than valued her ablution, keep, feed, habiliment, and intercourse with men of quality. For his vocation also was the care it purchased. Well, each little bastard in some measure had good intelligence, though it was not what you would call your dad's intelligence. And the water and the clay whose curve the slipping water's suppleness retained were to him
So actually, we should have looked up from the satellite monitor to see that it wasn't really Reverend Al Sharpton she was talking to. Jesse Jackson corrected her, and then the clip ended after she said, "I know who you are." Excuse me, let me start it. Contestant Brewer should have looked up at the satellite monitor to see that it wasn't really Reverend Al Sharpton she was talking to. Jeffrey Jackson corrected her. Excuse me. Contestant Brewer should have looked up, but she didn't, and now life is not worth living. I will come to see you as often as you want me to see you, because that's what I understand best about phenomena. Kenneth Cope once couldn't recall if he took a walk, and maybe I don't believe him to this day. Things fall into the wrong hands. At some point, chanting is tried for the last time, and then everyone in the circle kind of opens their eyes, looks around at what's supposedly there, and then slowly head over to the police line to be interviewed. Harvard, like any other place in accordance with the Renaissance, looks good on a sweaty gray t-shirt. Mark Leibner said something close to this, but I'm nothing like Mark Leibner, save we're both stark white and don't want to die anytime soon. Speaking for Mark, we mean that in the strictest sense, no dying till Brooklyn, which means I was trying to be funny just then, but I wasn't. Oh my Lord. This microphone's funny. Because when I speak of death, I'm coming apart. I'm terrified. I'm in a race between the defeathering of myself taking over and the anecdotal setting in. I'm more like a tourist who eats at a hilltop restaurant, and once they're full of breakfast, walks outside alone to speak to the grazing animals, complimenting them as godlike, and then pretending in unison they say it back. Wednesday. And I once cared so much for this one kid who called my lunch gay, my coffee cup gay, my inconsequential reading of your mind gay. What an all too nonviolent salute. A sailor full of sparrows that chatter before defeathering each other, while the rest of us, wait a moment, sing. On a visit to take this place away, it reeks of one more bird poem. I hungered within the breezy but debonair fallout shelter until the morning we each got our own rocket, the universal sign for all clear. Friday. I hope so much for the rattling intentions of our future that they remain something we consider enough to erect a separate guest house for, with sprinklers that don't cost too much, don't cost anyone too much. Oh Christ, the country. One dish falls, and then the others will not. I clean it up, and then you clean it up, yet it's years later that we remember who did what, finally pulling the mattress all the way down the hall to sleep on anything we missed. Perennial. Bad romanticism. Well, it depends on who calls who they. You rap the robot all wrong. I'm starting to get infected again. Thursday. When I took my eyes off of you, it was only